Well, I guess we can call the meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anybody want to consider making a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
There's one update.
Oh,
Well, that's on the consent agenda, isn't it?
Yeah, but you're approving the overall agenda with both the consent and the regular items right now, right?
No,
Yes.
we do. I thought we did that separate, but whatever,
No.
What was the
What's the update?
amendment to the agenda?
Well, I haven't heard anything about this, so it's up to Tess to explain it.
Yeah, John called me about that.
Is this a consent or an action item?
It's a consent, but it has to be on the agenda.
I don't know what it is either.
But John called me about it yesterday because he said he talked to the other four of you about it.
Talk to who?
Not to me.
The rest, he said, I talked to personnel and I talked to human services.
About the resignation that
That this lady is not going to resign.
I haven't heard from.
I got an email from
Okay.
John.
Okay,
Did you get one of these too?
I got
I got the email. Plus he
I got the
gave me a
email
copy.
yesterday about this, but
Yeah,
It occurred yesterday, and that's since I sent the email, she was requesting. Resignation.
John has a comment? So should we put it on the consent or do you have to have that
I
for
think-
action?
I think it could be added to the consent agenda. It's not an action item.
Can you read the name? Because I don't.
Elizabeth Knudsen,
can you come forward? They can't hear you on the
and
screen.
then at this time, Carol and I are reconsidering, we request a second agenda reconsideration to withdraw the fit placement for Lauren Felton. We're analyzing, as she is not within a particular union, we're analyzing exactly what needs to be done, so we respectfully request that. And we put on the agenda that Elizabeth Knudsen has requested, reconsideration of her, as of yesterday, reconsideration of her resignation. Thank you.
What
Which
about,
would then cancel.
what about the Mary Thompson thing?
Which would then cancel any search that was approved previously for a public health nurse. Mary Thompson, that request is as a temporary measure to fulfill the duties of Heather Myrie, who has resigned her position as the public health supervisor. It's unrelated. Elizabeth Knudsen's request to withdraw her resignation and the Mary Thompson temporary, casual temporary employee requests are unrelated to each other.
So this will be all added to the consent agenda, correct?
Yes.
That position would be, and then Carol and I were discussing, we would like to hold back, would bring the matter of Lauren Felton's
Number 3.
replacement to the board.
Okay.
at a later date.
Should this be shared with the personnel committee also?
For step placement.
All of this stuff that's
I
been
did
changed.
yesterday when it came in, I put you both directly on the email where it came in.
I don't think a withdrawal, your resignation needs to go to the personnel committee first. Does it?
No, I'm not saying that. Just be nice to know what's all going on. That's what I'm getting at.
And Commissioner, I did directly CC you both on that, because I don't assume that everybody may necessarily get all of the updates through the General Board of Commissioners email. So I directly CC you on that, along with the impacted department head and supervisors. So they're all directly there, so there's full notice.
Well, the Lauren Felton thing, that does need to be shared with the
Carol and
personnel
I had a
committee.
discussion as to, and where that placement might necessarily be. We can discuss that if you wish in personnel, but the recommendation is that she be treated similarly to those who are in AFSCME. She's not in AFSCME, she's a clerical that normally tracks the AFSCME contract. Carol raised some concern. I have said I will look at that, so.
Wasn't she hired as a temporary,
She is a
67 day,
casual, temporary-
67-day employee?
It is correct. Not a 67, she's a casual temporary employee working less than 14 hours a week. We can address that as a committee if you wish. That's fine.
What is changing on the consent agenda?
That Elizabeth Newton's withdrawing her resignation.
Okay,
That's all. That's-
and then we're rescinding the search for her replacement.
That will
We don't-
automatically happen. Our office will not search that position.
I know that, but
We need to,
Because
originally we had approved a resignation and then approved a search. So
Right.
rescinding the search.
Right.
And like I said, this all happened yesterday. As soon as I got the information, I sent it.
We're also getting rid of number 3.
Respectfully request that we withdraw that.
Number 3. Okay.
So as long as we're talking about this, the eligibility worker, new position. Is this a new position that's the number 1 on the consent agenda?
This is a new position, Commissioner. We met with the person that we, being Director for Lisa and myself, met with Commissioners Johnson and Myrie in the Personnel Committee as historically new positions go through the committee prior to going to the board. It is, we came out of that committee with the understanding that we would be moving forward with this as a request for your consideration.
So there was some conversation about no new hires this year. This is a definite need that
It's a definite need because of the scope of work that's going to be coming down the pike. And John and Karen could explain this a lot better than I can. But they explained this to us at Personnel Committee last Tuesday after the meeting.
Would you guys like me to weigh in on that?
Sure, John, go
Yeah.
ahead.
there we go.
If you recall, Commissioner Burns, we did talk about this with Karen at our Community Services Committee, but it relates to the changes to Medicaid that were put in place as waivers for the pandemic. Those, once the public health emergency is ended, those need to be undone. And as a result of those waivers, we haven't done any approving of those healthcare cases for, over 2 years. So in order to make those cases right, once those waivers go away, it requires a significant amount of work to essentially fix those cases. The plan with the state is that that'll happen every month as people's case would typically been renewed. So this is a significant addition to our workflow for the next year plus. That's why we brought it up at Community Services and then brought it to Personnel. Obviously, we don't typically come to the board and ask for new positions outside of the budget process. This is a really unique set of circumstances, and our desire was to get somebody on board to begin their training. They won't be in a position to approve healthcare cases by the time this starts, but they will be in a position to provide assistance to those who do have the expertise to address the stuff the state is asking us to do. The other thing I've kind of quoted a number of times is the state is really alarmed with this too. There's been multiple meetings, what are counties doing to prepare for this? They've characterized this change that we're needing to navigate as a tsunami of work. And so that's what led to us coming to the board with this. Does that help clarify a few things?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we talked about it on the 12th of April about the eligibility.
Yeah.
50% benefit covered by state.
And it's a vestige or a tail, if you will, of COVID. Is that correct, John?
I'm sorry, say that again.
It's a tail, if you will, of COVID.
Correct. The changes or the waivers that were put in place were for the pandemic. And it really is, I'm hoping it's a tale of COVID. It's one of the things that we're needing to unwind as we hopefully come back to some semblance of normal.
So I'll revise my motion to approve the agenda with the notation that Lauren Felton's change in status is going to go back to where she was and not have a change, and that we are going to rescind Elizabeth Knutson's resignation and rescind the search for her replacement.
I'll follow that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Carries. Previous board meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve minutes.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the previous board minutes. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Public comment. Okay, we're gonna move on. Somebody want to make a motion to where he did the consent agenda, or no, we gotta make a motion to do the consent agenda, correct?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with those changes.
Okay, so we do this twice. Am I looking at this?
We were
wrong?
just approving the agenda to begin with, not just the consent agenda.
Right. So we could have made whatever.
Well, now
Right.
it's really official.
I'll second it.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda is approved. Action items. Consider approving Fowler and Hammer contract for the Houston County ADA and adjacent women's restroom remodeling. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, we had put out an RFP requesting quotes, not an RFP, pardon me, an RFQ. Request for quotes, and we discussed this reached out to the firm Fowler and Hammer, as well as Weezer Brothers. Both came on site, both spent considerable time looking over the facilities. We provided, went up into the attic area, had considered what walls might need to be moved, et cetera. We have a response back from a quote from Fowler and Hammer. I think it's a strong, good, solid company, and a solid quote. It's for materials and services. It has some protections built into it, which require communication as we move forward through the process so that we can, once we get into the demo part of it, if you will, we'll have a better idea of what we need to do. But we don't believe we need to move that one wall we had originally discussed, but rather a couple smaller interior walls. And so we're hoping the cost can be contained. And what my original discussion was with respectfully request that we enter that contract with them and move forward.
What's the quote?
It's just time and it's materials and labor, which there's a schedule attached of the labor costs depending upon what type of skilled labor is required.
So there's no cap, it's just time.
There is
and whatever.
language in there that put this up, and I believe it is Article 3B, which says if it gets to a certain dollar amount, that those all have to be approved moving forward with the expectation that we are in regular discussions.
No.
We can stop this at any time.
Well, I'm seeing a blanks here.
Yeah, I am too.
It's before that.
It's just before that?
It's before that. It's a long document and
Oh, that one, okay.
page 28
What date did you get that?
with the EDA packet.
Page 28.
It should be in the packet. I'm
It's
trying to
page
find it.
28 and she's referring to
Okay,
number
here it is.
3.
Okay.
3B, I believe it is.
Yeah, 3B. Well, A, B, and C are all terms of payment.
They're gonna do the designing idea too? I mean,
thing.
the whole thing.
In your packet is a proposed design that's attached
Mhm.
as well.
They have a timeline on when this is gonna get done.
Yes, we are hoping it, the RFQ suggested July 1 as a deadline. However, there is a caveat to that. We will likely need to order a new door so that not likely, we'll need to order a new door, I am told, so that the width of the entry is wider. So that is going to, as far as completing the work, that will be what may hold us up and back us up a little bit. I've had discussions with the board chair that possibly we may be able to use that door. We'll have to check that out on the restroom across the hall here.
Sure.
So we are going to try to make best use of resources we have. Both, this is for the ADA restroom. This is also for the adjacent women's restroom that shares a common wall with the ADA restroom to update. We have some issues with one of the walls in there and the flooring coming up, and there's have been some water damage, it appears. And so it's also while we're in there to clean that up and to install no-touch systems for both.
So we're gonna give them 50,000 up front,
No.
That's
not
up
yet.
to.
up
And
to
that's
50.
Up to, they need to put, they need to order materials, they need to, they will submit according to this contract, they will submit their invoices to us, and we will pay them upon invoice according to the contract.
So
There is no upfront
50,000 is the
Yeah.
cap.
for anything after that. That should get us going to where we at least know, not at least, but so where we actually know and have a full plan going forward. Like I said, until you start taking a couple of walls down on that expansion. We had originally talked, I know I came to the board and said, depending upon what walls have to come down, this could be 100,000 or excess. Well, we have determined that we don't believe it's, we need to get into that, removing that one wall that separates that from the other office and expand that. I believe Commissioner Burns has done a walkthrough it a few times where we've tried to look to see what our challenges were going to be. The wall I'm talking about taking out is, and pulling forward, is pulling that front door, the door to the ADA restroom forward. So a chair or a person is required to try to maneuver around a tight corner. And also there's a closet, a utility closet right next to that restroom. We'll probably take that wall out. Andy and was down there. We looked to make sure that we didn't have to do rewiring, if you will, regarding a panel that is in there. I understand the panel is no longer active. And it was a panel for a phone service. And so we believe our cost for them to be a lot less than what might have been originally anticipated.
So what the contract says, I found it, contractor agrees to attain pre-authorization for anticipated labor costs in excess of 50,000. That's what it actually says.
That's number B of 3.
Just a little nervous from the point of view of we don't have a top end, not to exceed. You know, we
Haven't
talked
torn
about
anything out
100, we had
yet?
talked about 100,000, and I remember walking through and looking at the different aspects of it.
Thinking about the gap or something like this?
Well, we start at 50,000 and go up. We don't have,
Let's-
we don't have a top.
We don't have a ceiling.
There's no ceiling, so. Should they look at what they did with the steps and what happened with that?
Well, that's just what worries me too. There may be some surprises and
So if you don't want to do this project, I mean, we don't have to, it meets minimum ADA. It's just as a practical matter, it isn't accessible to all of those who come under the protection of the ADA. And when it comes to moving walls and buying these doors with the electronic eyes, I mean, we don't have, in today's market, we don't have a definite code on that yet. We don't even know the availability of that at this time. Talking with David Mighty, he thought if we could, we might try to reuse the mechanical portion of the automatic door. So, and that we probably could repurpose some of those things. But the door itself would have to be replaced, but we could probably, he's gonna try to see if we can repurpose some of the automatic opening mechanism. We could possibly, I think we have the automatic, we could use, are going to repurpose any automatic
aren't those new in there?
We will reuse those, but I believe there's one toilet that doesn't have it on it that we'll have to look at. And so we're going to try to reuse everything that absolutely we can.
It just would be nice to have a not to exceed.
Well, certainly we can, if that's what the board wishes, give me an amount and we will put that in there with the caveat that if it does exceed it, we need to come back and get approval for that. That was.
But the
language
project's
we
already
had.
started, so we can't,
That is the nature of this
you
project.
tear into it and holy crap, you know,
It's gonna be the
Just-
nature.
we can't just leave it
It's
there.
done.
That's the nature of this project. That'll be the nature of our roofing project because we don't know what all will need to be replaced under there. These are.
So that's gonna be the same way, the roofing project?
We don't know what will have to be replaced underneath this roof until we get into it.
So we're not gonna get a bid on that because of that.
It will be a challenge to get a bid on anyone to bid an amount certain as unknowns.
Without a blueprint or architectural design, it's difficult to make a bid. because there's too many whatevers behind the walls and behind on the floors and stuff. I agree that it'd be nice that, maybe the first 50, we say, okay, up to 50,000, this would be this, but then not to exceed 100,000 or something like that. I know the first 50 is going to be preliminary work.
Now that
For lack of
we
better word.
know, we do not, I'm sorry, Commissioner. Now that we know we are not having to take out that brick supporting wall that is to the immediate right when you enter that room. Initially, we thought that wall would have to come out and that we'd have to put some kind of support structure in place and then finish off that wall. That was the initial conversations that we had when we had, one of the contractors was out. They didn't know, at that point, we didn't know what we were really facing, so we kept in conversation. We now know we're not taking that wall out. That was the big challenge. But we do have those other smaller interior walls we have to move out, and we have a cost of a door that.
So we're doing this because it's not compliant anymore?
As I mentioned, Commissioner, it is a compliant restroom that meets minimal compliance. Minimal compliance doesn't make it accessible to all those who come under the protection of the ADA. It doesn't mean it's not compliant, it is. It's just that chairs have enlarged since some of those requirements have come in. In order to the range for a person in a larger chair or the big issue is once you get in, the door is open. Once you get in, that turnaround radius
Very small.
is extremely small, and that creates a challenge. So we're trying to move the wall out and forward so that we can have a greater turnaround radius to meet the spirit of the water feature.
Anticipating using ARPA dollars for this. I'm putting it in on that basis. We had originally talked about $100,000, so it seems to me we would approve this with a not to exceed $100,000 figure unless there's change orders that the board approves.
I do not believe we'll be getting close to that. And my hope is we stay at 50,000, but I cannot.
Well, that way we can maybe fix this bathroom up a little too. If it's,
And we would be repairing the other restroom since we have crews there and do all those repairs to that facility at the same time. And those would be quote unquote nominal.
So there's gonna be more done besides just these two?
No, I'm talking about the restroom adjacent to the ADA restroom.
Ones upstairs aren't gonna be touched.
Not with this replacement.
I mean, in the future. Here.
If the door, we don't even know if the door would fit or be usable in the one up here. And we don't have plans to put in an ADA restroom. We were just going to see if we would take advantage of the ADA door. And if we're able to reuse the opening and close mechanism downstairs, then we wouldn't have a mechanism to put on this door up here. So.
A lot of what ifs here.
well, my walker won't even go through this door here. Not much room. Just a walk.
The original conversation was to get that one restroom in this building compliant for anybody that needs that facility. The other, this is kind of compliant. But we'd have one in the courthouse or in the court, in the building itself that meets all the criteria for the ADA. Future reference, if we wanted to do something fine and dandy, but this gets that one done. The only thing that I don't like is having $50,000, but it's time and material and there's no cap, we should put a cap on it so that if it exceeds the cap, we can approve that instead of just letting it go.
What do you want, what, $75,000 cap?
It's up to the board.
Put a number to it.
We had talked originally of $100,000. With the wall not being coming down, so that should have a bearing on it. I would say let's use an $80,000 figure not to exceed without approval by the board.
That a motion?
So if we get to 80 and we need still not done, then what do we do?
Then they got to come back to us and tell us why.
One step at a time.
We're handcuffed. I mean, I agree, but at least we have an opportunity to know what's going on.
Commissioners, I'd still like to leave in the contract that 50, I understand the board approval and the cap by the board, but I would like to leave for accountability purposes, so we have information up front before we ever get close to something like 80,000, that we have to have agreement and be working closely with the contractor anytime as we approach 50,000. I think that's prudent. I haven't heard anything negative back from the proposed contractor that this is not workable. And the initial conversations are that we're really going to try to reuse every bit of what we have in materials. Let's say if a toilet cracks or a sink cracks in the process of the removal, I mean, it can happen. You don't have to replace it.
We want it done. We want it done right. We reuse what we can, but if we can't, use the new. Hammer's a good company, been around a long time, does good work. I have no issue as far as that's concerned. I'm more comfortable if we have a cap so that if it goes beyond that, we get an opportunity to talk about it before we approve it.
We already have to have pre-authorization, anything in excess of 50, but we could add
Yeah.
with a
That's
cap.
fine. That's fine. Just leave it the way it is.
Well, I think these are two different matters that you're discussing. One is one requiring board approval as a cap, as Commissioner Burns mentioned. But the other is that we hold the contractor to accountability for a conversation of anything as we approach 50,000, which I think is prudent, and that they work together. I do believe your 80,000 wouldn't. That's for board approval beyond this contract.
So you're just leave it the way the contract is, skip the $80,000 cap and let her go.
Well, put your $80,000 cap in your,
Add that to B.
well, put your $80,000 cap in there, but we want a conversation up front long before we get.
We want conversation at 50,000, but max. Okay.
How is that accountable in the contract to have a conversation? I mean, that doesn't even, is that?
Well, all I'm saying is if you want a $50,000 or an $80,000 cap, I can put that in there. But I am asking, as the person that is responsible for facilities, I'm asking the contractor to start coming and talking with us long before we get to that board approved cap. So we understand where we're at. It's just a matter of them getting approval to go forward versus if you don't want it that way, that's fine. I can change it to whatever you wish. I found that when working on the steps, Fowler and Hammer were, and Dave Mighty was very responsive to our request for information and conversations as we move forward through the entire project. And so I just think this will be more seamless that way.
Somebody want to make a motion to move forward with this contract of 50,000 with an $80,000 cap?
So moved.
A motion,
I'll second it.
And a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries
Carries 4-1.
4-1, sorry.
Only because there's too much gray.
Right.
And it's open-ended and this contract doesn't make sense to me. I'm not against doing what we're gonna do, but
Okay.
Number 2, consider accepting the Brownsville VFW donation of $200 to Veteran Service Office to use for any veterans' needs.
That's the easiest one. So moved.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That was easy. Number 3, discuss the possibility of approval of additional ARPA funds distributions. Carol.
that's you, Carol.
In the checkbook.
Really, the only thing that was discussed this week was, or last week, was the child-friendly room, and John sent you the information regarding that.
Right.
I haven't had any other.
I did send you that request
Oh.
from La Crescent Historical Society for 4,000 toward their remodeling, insulating their room,
Mhm.
and they need funds.
Yeah, I don't, maybe I'll send that out to everyone, and they.
I think
can-
I sent it to everybody
Okay.
originally. But
Request for 4,000. That was.
it was a request for using ARPA funds for the
Right.
remodel.
I think initially she had sent an email to EDA, and, it's not an EDA project. We don't have that,
Right.
like, they got money before.
Are you talking
Do the
about the
business?
Historical Society
Yeah,
In La
project?
so
Crescent.
Crescent Historical Society.
So if you did do that, it would kind of open up the door then to other nonprofits coming and asking for money. And they did originally reach out to me, yes. And I
Mhm.
said that before they did get funding, when we had the EDA program, that was for nonprofits and businesses, but we don't currently have that. So they really don't fall into something that we're currently offering
Mhm.
unless you want to open it up and offer it to everyone again.
So them putting in a request to us when,
I mean,
okay,
it doesn't really fall into,
What we've been doing.
what we've been, what our focus has been, regarding
Healthcare.
Healthcare, so,
I know they're really struggling, trying to find money to do this before winter.
mhm.
And they did contact me about asking if they could possibly get any ARPA funds. But
How about if I do some research and we'll, address it next week?
Yeah, I'd like that because again, it approached me also saying, is there a chance? And that's why I said you have to check with
Mhm.
if it qualifies.
If you do approve that, you will probably get a lot of other requests from nonprofits in Houston County wanting things for projects. So to be equitable, are you willing to give that to others too?
In which case, you would most likely set up a program.
We'd have to, like we did before, for the businesses and stuff.
Have a
depending on how much
criteria.
money you
Application.
want to allocate to that.
We have given money to other nonprofits, be it ABLE, be it ICANN, be it SEMCAC and
But we
whatnot,
said
but
there's a-
those all deal with assisting low-income, handicap and whatnot. This is a different scenario because they are not, this is for display of historical items that they have from La Crescent.
It's definitely a
It's
good
different.
project. I'm not saying it's not.
Well,
But
nobody
they
said
did
that.
get money before with the CARES Act program that we had. And if we gave them money again, you would need to open it up to other nonprofits for similar projects. And that could get to be a lot of requests, and we'd have to create a program again and run it like we did, like the CARES Act, to be equitable, because it wouldn't be fair to just give it to one nonprofit for their project like that, when there could be other nonprofits with similar projects, in my opinion.
One of the stuff we gave to Able and so on, that has to do with health and issues of different than this. This is a nicety.
They've checked with me a couple times and they seemed always open to the response. I said that we started with some healthcare related industries, some of which hadn't been helped before,
Right.
Which they seem to understand.
I just don't think it qualifies right now what we've been doing, in my opinion. Not nothing against what,
No, nothing.
But
I agree.
Did we give anything to the
Are there
County
other cities
Historical
that have
Society?
Historical?
no,
We
we-
have an appropriation.
That's
in
an
our levy.
appropriation.
that's just what we do every year.
That's the
But we
budgeted
didn't
thing.
give them any of the
Yeah,
ARPA
no,
money, I don't know.
that's budgeted.
We use
That's
our
different.
money.
Yep.
Is there any other city that has a historical society or historical?
May not be as organized as La Crescent's. Spring Grove has historical.
I
Stuff
mean,
that
they're
they display.
historical all the way around.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if there's,
Lately's got one, but I don't know if it's ever open.
That's part of the historical and we can probably don't.
Is it?
Yeah, it's in one is.
Well, I guess let's get more information, but I think.
we'll table it for now.
All right.
And I believe John is online and he could probably go through the child review. He he pretty much outlined the process that
Yeah,
he's
it was in the
been
email.
on.
26, 21,000, I think I said it would cost.
46, 133.98.
Yeah.
46, 133.98.
Mhm.
No, it's actually 26.
No,
Yeah,
26,898.
Right.
correct.
Apparently I missed something.
The one had an additional thing for another level, for in the lower level, and that's what brought that up to 46. But John, I'll let you elaborate.
Yeah, the two proposals that you saw in the email that I sent to you, one of them, we had considered some other alternatives with the use of video technology last summer when we were thinking about doing this. And that is something we're not pursuing anymore. So this is specifically related to the child-friendly room, camera equipment recording for forensic interviewing. Gives us the ability to have high-quality forensic evidence that then can easily be shared with parties that are involved in a case, like county attorney, other attorneys, law enforcement, the court, what have you. After we took those two proposals and took that additional feature that we had talked about last summer out of it, but then added back in a feature that was needed, but it was included in the other firm's bottom line. We needed to add it as a addition in the other proposal. So that's how we kind of came up with the firm that we're recommending, which would be EPA Audiovisual, for a total cost of $26,898.75. Actually, I'm encouraged with this because we were just a shade under 25 last year. And as we asked these two firms to update their proposals, we were concerned that they would, probably exceed 30,000 or more. So I'm encouraged with the numbers that we got from them.
do we have a timeline on when they would start this and finish?
I don't have a timeline. We've been kind of going back and forth with these folks, like I said, since last year. So we would need to, once we have approval, we'll put together a contract that I'll come back to you with, just like the contract I'm working on for the EDMS system, that'll outline a project timeline and what have you.
Well, we've talked about this for quite some time. It's something that's, I think, needed. It's the opportunity to do it while we have some availability to the ARPA. So I move that we approve this expenditure.
I'll second it. The timeline is good with the ARPA funds available right now.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, thank you, Commissioner.
Anything else, Jonathan?
Anything else?
Waiting for our second tranche. I received notification about a week ago, what the process will be, so I'll have to log back in. First, they changed it in the meantime. We used to have a DUNS number, and now they've eliminated DUNS numbers and they have a unique identifying number, so that will have to be updated in there, it's the US government awards place. I don't know why they decided to change.
So that'll be the permanent number from the future, for the future, so sounds like there's gonna be more coming.
I'm hoping so. They have, we've had the DUNS number for a long time. and
Yeah.
That's been in existence like forever.
Right,
So I don't know why in the middle of giving or districts money, you would change to say, oh, we're not gonna use DUNS numbers anymore, we're gonna use this, but maybe they're running out of numbers.
Yeah.
Could be.
Maybe.
Thank you.
Carol, do check on that stuff for the Historical Society
Please.
for me. Yes.
Okay, number 4, consider what proposals to move forward with the comprehensive land use plan. Martin.
We got the updates as you requested.
Mhm.
TKD. So I think you've got everything that we have in terms of the information. Yes, in terms of looking at the numbers, we're trying to do sort of an apples to apples comparison because they're sort of different in various things. If you put them together, it looks like TKDA would be about 81,100 with everything in their proposal. That's assuming a lot of attendance, assuming 1,500 on a couple different items, their working budgets as they propose, $5,000 for their mapping versus the WSB one with the extra 1,000 as they propose would be about $89,000 there. So that's where we're at, and I guess the question that you
About $1,000 difference the way it looks.
How many thousand?
1,000.
well, no, 81 versus 89. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so 8,000. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's really loading everything in. WSB's is basically a lump. TKDA's is, itemized to, a starting point of like 66, and then then you add into it, so.
It's like à la carte, add on what you want, when you need it, things like that. I went through this, and one of the things that was with the WSB was that pop-up thing where we could have displays available. And I believe TK answered that with number 4. Would be happy to develop engagement tools to be used. So that would be a cost, of course, but I think in addition, I'll just keep speaking. Well, I was impressed by TK, and when they were the second one, they came in with some better answers. I thought they give us an opportunity to choose what we want, where WSB had a package and kind of, if you don't use it, you still pay for it. So after getting the information from Amelia, and I read this over, and I still feel pretty confident with TK actually at this time, unless other information is available.
I guess just to be fair too, we didn't go back to WSD and question them on anything, so they may provide alternatives if we had asked for that.
They basically sent us the updated project cost, and all they did is change their titles.
And
Basically,
then add $1,000.
And then, yeah.
Right, for the mapping.
Right.
So,
Is that a motion?
Sorry.
no, go ahead.
I'm listening. Yeah, I'm done.
No. So if we TDK is, so it's not 66,000 anymore? Is that what you're
That's
telling
the
me?
base, and then it builds from there.
So we have the option in the, as we're having our discussions that, well, maybe we won't want to do that or whatever. So we're not tied to that end
Correct.
number, right?
That's our starting point, and then there's the prices for the various activities are itemized as well.
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful now to decide like what things that you think that you would want in person. So for example, when I read through what they sent, some of their meetings with just the board, they had originally suggested zooming in, which Zoom for just meeting with the board might not be a bad option. That'll save us $300 a time.
Right.
They were gonna be here like, I think 5 times. That I think would be appropriate for Zoom. Now, some of the other things you probably are gonna wanna have in person or a hybrid option. So it'd be nice
the
to know
public.
now, you know, kind of what we're thinking, but yes, it's nice to know you have the option to add something in if at the last minute we're like, oh, we want one more in-person event. So there will need to be a contract that's actually specifically for this with them once we decide who we're moving forward with. And it could have a not to exceed amount in it, but you could start with what you think you want for the base.
Well, I agree with what Dewey was saying, that TDK came in a little more, I was more confident in their answers and their expertise, experience in this situation, in this project. So I concur with Dewey on that.
I'm just gonna add one point to, that one thing that I added in as I was going, the map is for sure something that I want. That's the 5,000. So I mean, I guess we can, in my opinion, that we should have that available so people can literally see what it is.
Right.
So, but that was not in the original 66, but that's
Right.
one of the numbers that I see in there.
So long as we get enough in-person involvement for the public between
Townships
the
and
townships and the cities and the hotspots, and, you know, just so everybody has an opportunity to have their input heard, both initially and as it's ongoing. In person, not Zoom. And I think they addressed that with their updates. The other one already had that figured into it.
Right.
that they
With
were-
only so many too, I think.
Right, there was only so many, but either one of them's only got so many. I mean, you add more, you're gonna pay more, so.
well, somebody.
So we're just looking for a,
Do we need a motion or do we just?
We need a
Direction,
motion
a
to
motion.
accept the,
Okay,
then we're gonna have to approve the contract at a later date.
Yes.
Right.
Well,
I said, consider what proposal to move forward with, and then we'll start the contract.
I make a motion, we consider moving forward with TDK.
Second.
Is it TDK
TK.
or
TKDA, sorry.
I just say TK, that's enough.
we'll make them change the name.
TKDA.
It's just something about that.
we've had a motion and a second to go with TKA or whatever it is.
TKDA.
by the time it's over?
yeah, that's right.
Right.
And any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, no discussion items.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
You guys are on tap.
Yep, so now we're gonna discuss who should be the main contact person with the firm for the comp plan moving forward. So the original plan, I think, was that Martin would be the contact person. I have offered also to be the contact person instead, the main contact person with the firm moving forward. Martin's new, he has a lot on his plate, and the comp plan, you know, will affect EDA and also planning and zoning. So it'll be up to you guys who you want the main contact person to be moving forward, but I'm happy to do so if you would like, if it helps.
I feel Martin should be the main contact person and you as the secondary, only because he is our department head for that department. That's just my preference.
So much of what the contact person will do now will be arranging times when the firm comes and meets with the main people at the county, setting up the times when there's the public events that the public can participate in, communicating with the city is that kind of thing. So I feel like I have good connections and contacts, and then I'm a good communicator.
So Amelia and Martin could meet with you to help set this up.
We'll all still have to work together, yes.
Yeah.
But if you would rather have Martin be the main contact,
I
that's
would.
fine.
I appreciate the help anywhere I could get it. But also,
I think if Amelia and Martin can work with you on setting up the public information, the township meetings, et cetera, I prefer to have our department head be the main contact.
I'm happy to do it.
It's just a question of timing. Are you gonna be swamped with other things? You know, then it gets overbearing.
Well, he's just gonna have to be a good delegator.
Yes, that's right. And Amelia's very good at this too.
Yeah,
That's why
three,
you're
three
in-
very
Well, we
good
need to have
people.
a main contact person.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
either gonna
right.
be
Right.
Allison or Martin.
I'm okay with continuing on, don't get me wrong, by any
Okay.
means, in terms of, and I, but, I mean, I'll listen to anything Allison has to say. I completely trust your judgment. I mean, just hands down. There's just no good thing on spot. But I think in terms of the consistency, it's just
To
like,
keep it in
where
the
do
zoning
they start
department.
and go from there? That's completely understood.
So you need a motion on that? No.
No, I
Let's-
just
let's
wanted to.
Just
discussion.
discussion.
So it's gonna be really important going forward to make sure that we advertise the upcoming events well.
Right.
And communication needs to be very clear and concise as far as, what we want and how we move forward. And we don't want it to be confusing for the firm or the public.
Yep, that's true.
Well, we got three good people sitting right here. You
Yes,
will
I
take
agree.
care- You guys will be able to take care of it, I think.
But I think Allison is more adept at putting together the
Yeah.
meetings and more adept at putting together the communications aspect of it with the
But if she
general public.
works with Martin,
And he's more adept, or they are more adept as far as the specifics of what
right,
the comprehensive land use plan is gonna be.
yes,
Trouble is, initially, everything we do is gonna be dealing with the public. Isn't gonna have anything to do with putting together the plan and what the comp plan says. It's gonna be getting information from the public in order to be able to put it together.
right.
So in my opinion, it makes more sense that Allison, who has all these communications with the different cities and the different organizations, to put together the planning as far as meetings and whatnot, and running it through planning and zoning, so they know when it is, but she puts it together.
I would rather see our planning and zoning work with Allison, just the offices.
That's fine. We'll do that. So the next step will be, Martin, you're gonna work with the attorney
Right.
to get the final contract ready to go ASAP so that we can officially begin working.
Right,
Yeah, I'll call the firms right now.
sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board updates, board chairman. Well, I haven't had a lot since last week. I guess we had a zoning meeting the other night. Everything went pretty well there. Nobody had too much troubles.
Any movement on that?
Joe Wood deal, I haven't
Yeah.
heard a word on that. That's been real quiet. I've heard they're gonna rezone it, but then I haven't heard nothing definite. Bob might have heard something different. It's always been kind of hush hush. Maybe there'll be a land tract sanction here. We won't have to worry about it. Maybe they'll swap land. So,
You haven't heard anything, okay.
No.
We only have, what, 120 days to
Yep.
make a decision,
So
though.
it'll be our next meeting.
Okay, they will be?
We'll have to.
Otherwise you automatically get it.
We had a little water problem down at the county shops and water was running in down by the trailer houses, but got that fixed up. So
With all the rain.
it just frosted it out, so some of the soil went away and washed down in his yard. So they got her fixed up today, I see. Airport, I see we got our stakes out there. They got it all surveyed, do you think, Bob, or not? It looks like they got the stakes in place. What is it, about an acre that will be in the 10-year there?
Whatever. It's a little tiny bit over an acre.
Is some of that farmed?
Yes.
Is that contract in place for the renter to farm that?
I do not believe the county has a contract with the renter for the 7 acres.
So is that gonna happen or, I mean,
Talk to Brian about that. I don't know what the status on that is. Just got to put together as far as the acquisition, so I don't know as he's talked to the
well, the farmer that's been farming that was asking about it.
see Brian after we get done with the meeting. See if we got anything put together.
See why hasn't rented again. I don't know why we.
I don't know if he rented it from Pinky or if he just farmed it.
No, he rented it from Pinky.
Yeah.
We did? Okay.
I mean, that's, yeah, being that we own, yeah, there's probably a whole different, you gotta rebid it or what.
You know, we got rent. We got one bird renting part of ours, and Hoshite's renting everything around him.
Yeah.
So Hoshite rents the part that we just bought
Okay.
as of now. Oh, correct. That's on this side. Birds do everything on the other side.
I don't know for sure.
I think Nick Hoshite would probably work it. I don't think.
Well, it's something that needs to be taken
Clarify.
care of.
Let's get closing time here.
Mhm.
I think it'll start pretty soon, maybe.
Maybe.
I'll talk to Brian.
If the
We
art
can
don't
set-
show
we can
up.
set up the same kind of arrangement that he had with it as far as price and stuff, I would imagine. For at least for this year.
And I don't know what you want to do with the 10-year. Do you want to leave it in there? Or should we just take it out and be done with it?
I thought we already decided to,
Well, see, we didn't get that
Pull that
part
out.
signed.
or didn't we?
That didn't get signed before he died, that part.
There was one form that required his signature and they never got us the form back from. I think we can do it. It's just, you got more hoops to jump through to get it done on that 1 acre.
That's about all I got, I guess.
I didn't have any meetings. Is there any movement?
That's
on the
almost a
parking lot?
miracle. That's
Yeah.
almost a miracle for you.
Well, did a lot of different county stuff, but there again, no official meetings. Anyway, any movement on the parking lot out here?
I haven't heard nothing.
I'm trying to find somebody to
Do
do
the assessment?
appraisal.
Yeah, appraisal of it.
Well, we can get to it in July, maybe August, something like.
Oh, shoot.
I can't find any short-term
Okay,
quickie appraisal.
okay. And no movement as far as the library computers at this point? Okay. Nope, I don't have anything else that I need to bring before the board.
Bob?
As far as the library computers and whatnot, I haven't had a meeting with for negotiations. As far as that's concerned, I just got all.
Wasn't that Teresa and you?
Yeah,
Yeah, but I haven't got anything set up and I haven't got any time frame set up with them. There's a meeting coming up next week, so I'll see if we can set up a time frame for that. All I got was all the wages of what everybody makes at the different libraries. And it is amazing the variation of what the different libraries pay. So no response as far as the library. I'll let you know as soon as I'll get you the payroll information. As far as my reports are concerned, I had the one meeting last week with regard to I went to the planning and zoning meeting that Eric talked about for Rogish with the back 40. Elmer's Old Restaurant. And the approval that he got to change it into rental and rental storage and residential. So that'll be coming to us sometime in the near future. I had a Hiawatha Valley Mental Health meeting yesterday in Winona. Things are going very well there. There was some conversation, grant money that they didn't get approved for. And then there was quite a conversation with regard to the legislature and what they're passing as far as essential employees and a bonus situation where the state is going to authorize bonuses for the essential employees, but it's not yet determined how they're going to come about. The employer is going to notify the employee of the program. The employee then has to make the application to send to the state and indicate why they are considered an essential employee. And you can't have collected unemployment, and you had to have at least 120 hours of work. And they talk about it's being maybe a $750, but it depends on how many people. I mean,
Qualify,
they qualify.
because there's an income cap too,
There's a
right?
cap on income, and there's lots of different.
There's a lot of
And
hoops.
they
in that
haven't
one.
come out with all the information yet, so, but there's quite a bit of conversation about that. I did receive a notice from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. Pleased to inform us that our county has satisfied the requirements for the second half of the fiscal year SCORE block grants, so I assume you already know about that, but why they sent the letter to me.
That's for the feedlot, isn't it? Or what is that for?
That's for,
Recycling program.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
the solid waste management plan and all of that. We talked about, one thing I wanted to ask about was the courthouse doesn't have a bike rack.
They did,
Where is it?
north side.
It's on the north
yeah,
side?
yeah, there's one there.
Okay,
Over.
I think it's still there.
So you could ride your bike, Bob.
I'm gonna, but it's on the, if it was right.
by the gas station.
Is it by the old jail, or is it on the north side by across from the Bank of the West?
Across from the Bank of the West.
So it's not a handy bike rack.
Well, I
Can,
suppose no one has really used it, so it probably was put
Okay,
there.
okay.
can it be
I
relocated?
don't go that way, so now I know where it is, so future reference.
I know it's been used in the past, and I
You
guess
wanna
I'm
move
assuming
down
it's
in
still
the
there.
parking lot? You want to move over here?
It's an employee bike rack, because the people that got the slots that can come in the back door can get in. Anybody that's public has to park their bike and then come around to one of the other doors. As long as, I just didn't know there was one there. All right, so that answers that question. The other thing is the AMC District 9 quarterly meeting is in
June
June
6th.
6th. So I don't know who else going to it. I'm going to it, but
I am going to be
That's a-
gone from June
that's a month
2nd to
away.
June 19th. So I'm gonna have to find my alternates to cover my meetings.
it's in Cannon Falls.
Mhm.
And that's all I got. You'll get more notifications, I'm
We
sure.
got 2 already, so.
They'll keep coming.
Mhm.
I got nothing else to report.
I didn't have any meetings the past week.
Jesus, this is almost a miracle. Like you and Teresa, neither one. Holy cow.
So only thing I would like to mention is that you guys have probably seen the Sheriff Inglett's letter. I think he's done a really good job here in the sheriff's department. And just want to thank him for his 8 years total of service. And there's going to be some challenges coming down the pike with the contract with Winona County running out. So
Mhm.
No, you did, I'll get the notice on that. I mean, that was in our package as far as
Mhm.
through January of 2024.
We did email him that he could be like Tom Brady, come back in a month.
Well, he could change his mind too.
Yeah, right, yeah.
We could
May
rescind it.
17th is when we
Yep.
file.
I just wanted to mention that he,
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's done a very good job.
That's all I got.
No meetings, just update on the bike overpass. They're pouring concrete on the pads to, for the ramp part. Getting ready to do some more approach work, so it looks to be on schedule from what I have heard, unless you've heard something different.
Nope, it's on.
And
schedule.
so that's going good. I did get comment from the city of La Crescent about the pole pads, that they appreciated that, because that's one of their busiest places. And so that's about the only thing I have.
Are they gonna close that highway there when they put the bridge itself in?
Temporary, yeah, they'll
For
come
like
in.
a day or something? Or-
I
It's
think,
all built, so they don't think it's gonna take long at all. They're
So
just gonna
half a day?
temporarily close it, put it in, and it's supposed to just,
Okay,
it
one
comes
day.
so
in.
what,
there.
what day is that gonna be? 'Cause I
I
don't
don't
want-
You know how cold that is? We don't know yet.
I expect to that they'll try to pick a non-busy time, or
Yeah.
that's when they discussed it, but I know that it's a busy road, but they don't expect it to take very long. from what I've heard.
Once you get the cranes in place, it's just lifting it off the trucks and
I find it hard to believe that they can do it in a day.
oh yeah,
It's all put together.
less than a day.
Well, it's a clear span, right? Or
Yep,
there's
clear span, there's nothing in the middle,
No,
so.
no.
But I mean, those are some big pieces that they're gonna be plopping into place. And I would assume that they want to wait until rush hour in the morning is done and try and be done before rush hour on the way home is done.
Yep.
Mhm.
We also do it midnight.
Well, we've done that too, or some of them.
I don't think doing it in the dark is a good idea with myself.
Oh, shit.
Some of the things can,
They can light that place up like you wouldn't believe if they want to.
Yeah, that'd be a good way to do it.
Yeah. All right, any closing public comment? Like it? Somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
so we'll
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
And second, to adjourn, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Adjourn, thank you, everybody.